let's see. It's still not showing, but it should show up here. There we go.
Is that, yeah. So there was a delay of what, 10 seconds or so?
I think it's about 3 or 4. Are we getting feedback?
Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, 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 blah.
I don't hear any, but...
No. Alright.
But I'm an idiot, so...
So we hear that echo, we're kind of doing that thing.
Yeah.
So... Oh, I think I know what you wanted. Yeah.
I still haven't gotten a new chair.
Can you get up a little bit?
Do what?
Can you punch that GM trick thing up a little bit? Just slide it up a little bit underneath the, almost right to where the,
How's that?
thing. One more.
Alright.
It's going to be a second of a delay, let's just say. Yeah, it's like, oh crap, it goes underneath that whole delay. You need it. That's fine. That's good. That's good.
Well, now they're all going to be off.
Yeah, we need to get that window snapped next time, but we'll figure it out.
Lordy Lord.
Alright.
Who put Google on there? You knew that was coming, didn't you?
I got you're a Bing man.
Yeah. Google is a horrible company.
Yeah, they make a good search.
Yeah, well, I've got problems with Google and Amazon these days.
I know, but we don't have a problem with Amazon. We love Amazon. We want people to go buy stuff on Amazon.
No. They need to quit buying from Amazon and just go to our store and buy it. That's
yeah, that would be better. But, you know.
Amazon, I tell you though, of course I've quit. I've even stopped ordering supplies for TLG from Amazon. We've shifted to Walmart because their packaging it's beyond ludicrous. It went to the zone of just obnoxious and then into this kind of weird. I mean, you order a mouse, it's in a box this big, and they'll send it in a box.
Well, that is insane as hell.
It's insane. It's just ridiculous.
We ordered a cat litter box the other day. It was packaged, I think 3 times all the way through, and then a vacuum cleaner was 4 times all the way through. Hey guys, how's it going? We got Chantel and Google Flex here, and 2 others, I'm sure.
Yeah, we did. I ordered a keyboard, I think, and it came in a box about 5 times bigger than the keyboard itself, and it had one little air pillow in there. Now, what that air pillow was supposed to do, I do not know. Because it served.
Take a nap on.
I guess. I mean, it didn't hold the keyboard from sliding around at all. And then I mistakenly ordered a book, of course, and that was the kill zone for me because they damaged that book 6 ways to Sunday.
Man. Well, let's see. What else do we hate?
There's a litany of things that.
Yeah. Well, we don't hate Twitch.
No, Twitch is good. So I was at the Founders and Legends. How did our thing go off on? Did we stream it? My game that I was in.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good
Yeah,
deal.
well, it looked good. I thought, we had basically auto-hosted the whole thing through the whole weekend.
Oh, nice. So it was actually on our channel, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it was on our channel. Hey, Beak Gwenders, and Brevin Darksteel. Yeah, hey, look, see? Even someone, or Chuck thinks you were incredible.
Well, thank you, Chuck. It was fun. It was interesting. They have a more elaborate setup than we do.
Yeah. You didn't see the setup at GaryCon, did you?
No.
No, yeah. Chuck and I went back there, and Bill Allen, the guy that was running all that, gave us a tour. It's pretty intense. I mean, they do basically the same thing that's set up, I would imagine, for the founders and legends. A lot of different cameras, a lot of
Yeah,
different feeds.
cameras everywhere, wires all over the place, and a crew of probably 8 people running it, and it was pretty cool. It was interesting. I was sitting right under that glaring light, though. It was it was rather warm.
Hey, did they make up your face again?
They did. They put makeup on my face. I'm pretty sure it was the same young lady who did it.
The teens thing?
Yeah, it's a teen thing a year and a half ago. I have discovered, and I told her this, that's very relaxing. just to lay there with your eyes closed and have someone touch you with a brush. I'm used to the Chinese water torture end of that, but not not that end of it. So.
Yeah, if you're at a con, you better be careful when someone's around you. At least at one of these things, you can trust somebody kind of working on your face.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know that I would trust Jason Bay or Todd to do anything but poke one of my eyes out. So.
Right. There's nothing wrong with makeup, Chantel. It's just that normally Steve doesn't wear a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
The radiant skin.
Yeah, my radiant skin. Yeah, I don't wear makeup at all, but it was kind of cool sitting in that makeup chair having someone put makeup on me. Or whatever they do. I don't know what they do. They put something on me and then kept, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I just do what I'm told. And
well, it kind of helps with that little
glare.
glaring dome that you've got. I'm one to talk, of course.
I do have a nice, good dome here, though. It's the wisdom. It's the wisdom that I possess. So.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
That's what it is. we'll just go with that for now.
So let's see. We got a few people in here. We're about 5 minutes in. Before we start with this, I wanted to give a few just talk a little bit before we dived in. You and I we ran a few. We haven't run any sales really, but we did a thing where we have one leather left in the damaged section of the egg or rice barrels. Right? Is that still available?
That's still there. I would like it to find a home.
Yeah, and there's a few other things. There's like maybe 5 things in the damaged section. So if you guys want a deal, there's stuff up to 68% off over there. And as people tell us, we're pretty high end on our damage. It's not like it's torn in half. It's got a scuff. It's got a mark or on it, something. If it's got that, it's just as good as new. That's about the only thing that's usually wrong. But you're pretty good about the quality of things. I won't put it out unless it's pristine.
Yeah, this one I believe that Volume 2 has some scuff marks up by where it says Volume 2. It's nothing horrific. We tried to buff it out, it wouldn't come out. But I tell you, about every 3 weeks or so, I take a load of books and just dump them in the recycle bin, and it pains me. I would rather than find a home.
I'll put in a link here about where it is. So that and about 5 other things are in the damage section. So if you want to chalk yourself up one of those good deals, I think the Andalus is in there. There's Hallowed Oracle leather at the Earth's core. There's still one of those, I think.
There's a couple in there.
And then there's a classic Monsters and Treasure print. So and that one's only $10. It's a good deal.
Well, I can do a quick Kickstarter update. I'd kind of like to roll that out real quick.
That'd be good. Why don't you do that?
So we've got, and we'll do updates this afternoon and in the morning to all the actual Kickstarters. But Harvesters is shipped, all gone. The last of the overseas orders went out. So if you haven't gotten yours, let us know. But everybody, I'm pretty sure at this point, has got them. Monsters and Treasures is all shipped, but the last 3, I've got to get those rolled up and out. I kind of took over the packing on these because it's kind of complicated with flash drives and who gets flash drive. And I'm getting kind of particular about certain things, but so that one should be wrapped up the next day or 2, and then all the components except for the Outstrike book are in for the Player's Guide to 5th edition. Player's Guide to Eric 5th edition, so it should start shipping absolutely no later than Monday, but possibly tomorrow. We'll just have to see. Outstrike should be in this afternoon, so that shouldn't be an issue. But no later than Monday, we'll start rolling that, closing that Kickstarter out. And in the meantime, Peter turned all over the files for the classic collector's box set, except one, I think. So I'm going to try to get those PDFs together and out early next week. And then we'll get the box starting in manufacturing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, give or take. And Dens of Inequity, it's done. I think it's done. I think the little adventure needs editing and layout, but the book itself is done. I'm not sure where we are on the maps, but I know Davis has turned those over. So I'm hoping tomorrow to have a PDF up and ready for all the backers to at least get the PDF of Dens of Inequity. So we're looking at knocking about finishing up 2 and we finished up 1, finishing up another, and then knocking 3 out hopefully in the next 30 days.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's a lot. And I'm glad you have that all in your head, because I can't keep it straight in my head.
It's for the Player's Guide to Air alone, it's 17 titles.
Wow.
For the Dens of Inequity, I think it's 5 titles. Harvesters, of course, had 11 various and sundry things. Yeah, it's a lot of crap. It's a lot of high-quality gaming product. The Egyptian one has been turned over to me. I turned it back to Brian. Brian then went through and he fleshed out all of the gods in there with the stat blocks that have like the temple and the holy item and all of that stuff. He has turned that over to me. I don't know if that's gone to editing or not. It got to me just before Founders and Legends, so if it hasn't gone to editing, it will go to, and it has not, because I need to look back over it and organize it in the way I want it kind of organized. He's got each chapter done, but I got to get the chapters in the right order. And then that's going to go to the editor probably late next week, if not early next week. It won't take me very long to do it. So, and there's one in the middle, isn't there? Isn't there another one?
Dens of Inequity,
There's one after Egypt. Oh, the Amazing Adventures.
Oh yeah, the 5e.
The 5e Amazing Adventures. That one, Jason tells me the text is done. Of course, he's written it. It's edited. He's doing a final pass now. It'll be ready for layout next week. So I think that'll probably go right to Peter because I don't think he's laying anything out. He's doing art for it right now. He's coloring art. So progress is being made on all fronts. And we do have another Kickstarter probably launching Monday. The Lost City of Gaxmore for 5th edition. This will be... At the moment, there's really only 2 more 5th edition Kickstarters planned. It's the Lost City of Gaxmore, and then the Monsters and Treasures of Air.
Okay.
And then we're on to Jim Ward finally turned over the manuscript for Metamorphosis Alpha, Starship Warden.
Nice.
Man, it's too many products going on.
Good. It's a good thing.
It's good. Yeah, things are hopping. It's good. And we even got some new Vicky stuff out.
Yes, that's right. That's over on OBS though. Right now, we got the PDF of that on sale over there.
That's part 1 of 3. We'll in the next 2 or 3, 4 weeks we'll get the other 2 parts out and start getting some long needed support for Victorious.
Which reminds me, I have you know how we told Davis he couldn't write anything that can't be pronounced? We need to also have a rule that it cannot have more than 5 words. Victorious is Victorious,
Yeah.
Evil in the White City, Volume 1, The Encounterer, I can't remember.
Adjudicator, something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I could barely fit it in the title section.
Yeah, no, it is it's been an issue since day one, because the top of your book has got the logo on it, and then you've got a title. Davis loves subtitles, so all of his have subtitles, and we've had to kind of clean all of that out. It's challenging. It's very challenging.
When I did my master's thesis, they kept arguing with me. They wanted it to be They Own the Road, a life in the look of truckers. And I just wanted to call it Albany because that's where I started.
There you go. See, that would be a cool title. It makes you at least stop and look. But if you've got too much verbiage on there, you just get And then layout's a nightmare, and doing the art's actually crazy because you gotta
can't cover up parts. And...
Yeah, you got to design. The artist has to design the cover itself to accommodate all of these titles, and Peter's very apt at doing. He makes room for the logo. So does Zoe, and so does Jason. They all make room for the logo and enough room for a title. But if you jam in a subtitle in there, what was Davis's one? Well, all of them. All the Dens of Inequity has a subtitle. It's called Ragglesburg, and then Beneath the Black Moon has a subtitle called Bear Cult, I think. And then but that third title eats right into everybody's art. So then I'm having to adjust the art, blah blah blah.
So basically, you just need to have some art about that.
Exactly. Just make it very, very simple. It should really just be like that. Just the title. But we do have to put logos.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
All right, I need to get something to drink, and then we can start in if everybody's ready. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. I wanted to do the Kickstarters, blah, blah, blah. Lost City Gax more now. Get yourself a drink, and
all right.
We can dive in.
Sounds good.
It is G2. What is G2 called? I can't remember the name of that. The Glacial Rift of the Frost Giant Jarl. That's actually my favorite of all the early TSR adventures, and it's the only one that I actually had Gary Gygax sign. I think I've got some Dangerous Journeys that he signed in my library that he gave me early on, but I never, I worked with him all the time, so I never really thought to get him to sign anything, to my regret. But yeah. So that one was my favorite, and of course I had him sign it on the inside so it wouldn't mess up the cover because I love that cover. I love that blue; it's comforting. And the thing next to it is the original cover of the Monsters and Treasures from Castles and Crusades. It's got the 3 trolls. Peter did it in black and white. I don't know what medium. I think it's penciling. And then he transferred that to Photoshop and colored it in Photoshop. So we actually don't have an original color version of that. I've wanted him to paint that, to do it in oils for years and years and years and years. I love that piece. I always thought it was really cool with the 3 trolls kind of divvying up the treasure. It just kind of fit the whole TLG whatever ethos, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, something like that.
Like how do you split $1 3 ways?
Right. How do you split a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper and some marbles in $1? All right, so let's dive into this GM's Tricks of the Trade. This is going to be a little different. I wrote these last week. Normally, I write them just before we send them out, so it's fresh in my mind when we do the Twitch. But I didn't. I wrote these last week trying to get ahead of things around here, which would be nice. But so this week and for the next several weeks, I think what I'm going to do is focus on mostly new GMs, people who are kind of fresh to taking over the screen, whether it's you've played for a while and now you're starting to run a game, or you're just brand new to the game itself. And focus on this for a little while, because I know there's a whole lot of new players in this. I see a lot of stuff on Twitch, a lot of people talking about how to get started, and they're nervous, and all of this other stuff that the pressures that come with starting a game, especially when you're the one doing all the talking behind the screen trying to set everything up. So with that in mind, we did this week's, it went out Tuesday, right? We did this week's GM's Tricks of the Trade with on kind of how to start the opening sequences of your game. Not really even how to get prepared, but how to do, I guess I should do a preparation thing, how to get the opening sequence of your game rolling. So the first thing I recommend in GM's Tricks of the Trade number 1 is ease into your game. This really is when you show up at the table and everybody, whether it's your house or their house or at a convention or wherever, and everybody's showing up, it's a good time to just kind of talk to everybody and let people know what's coming. And, everybody's going to be joking and getting their food set up and their dice out and all of this business. But while this is going on and the jokes are being cracked and people are introducing, or whatever the scenario is that you're gaming in, it's a good time to talk about the game itself. I tend to just drop kind of mostly humorous jokes or challenges or whatever, things like we've got a dungeon crawl tonight. The Ranger's really going to have to step up his game because we're going through the Darkenfold, or hope you guys have some paddles for a canoe. Whatever it is that kind of lets everybody know at the table what's coming. That way they're a little bit mentally prepared for an overland adventure, a dungeon adventure. I'll say things like, this is a we got a hard-hitting combat tonight, so put your dancing shoes on. I'll say things like that just to get everybody's mindset around what's coming their way. I do this actually for almost any game that I'm running, but for a new game specifically, it helps, especially like those large games I run at GaryCon and Gamehole, Gen Con, and Origins, wherever I am. I tend to do this so that everybody can kind of get their head around what's coming. It's a good time if you haven't rolled up characters. It's a good time then to kind of say things like, tonight's game really needs a ranger. There's no place for a monk. The assassin's not going to do you any good. Anything like that to help players kind of guide themselves into the character creation process, if that's what you're doing. Of course, if characters are already made, that doesn't matter. But really easing into the game during setup, it helps, lighten things up, break the mood, and get people's heads around what they're fixing to face. Do we want to do questions? Anyone have any questions on that? Or otherwise, I'll roll right into character generation.
I wrote down that if anybody has questions, please list them here. And so far, Dino has said I like to focus since I'm a newbie. So that's good.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah, and I'm hoping next week, I've got it kind of sketched out, but early next week we'll do tone as well. I need to do one on preparation. But yeah, when you first start, it can be kind of overwhelming a little bit. But really, once you've engaged players even a little bit, and that's what I try to do a lot, and that's what I talk about in these tricks of trade, it helps so much, because then it's really not so much you, and it shouldn't be, in my opinion, you just running the game. It's everybody playing the game, and that all kind of ties together. So as you're easing into the game, this carries on and into tricks of the trade. I can't say that. It's too many T sounds. Do what?
Just say trick.
See, I am like Barbara Streisand. It's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so on character creation, if you're starting a new game and you're having everybody roll up new characters, I try to always, and again, this is for veterans, people who are playing a game, anytime you're starting in a game or if you're new at it, I try to remind people that first level characters are very mortal. They die frequently. So as they're rolling their characters up, I always mention, always have in mind another character. Characters tend to get killed early on when they're first levels, and this type of stuff. What that does is it kind of gets people's headsets around. They don't get so attached to whatever character that they're playing that if they die midway, what's up? Oh, did I not do the bing? How's that?
Peace sign. There we go.
Did that work?
Yeah.
All right, so it's better than last time. We got to like 5, and we remembered to turn the thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're heads up. So I try to remind people that their low level characters can die frequently, and not in a harsh way. Just I don't like you're going to die tonight or anything like that. Just that you can be mortal, so don't get too attached to this type of stuff because first level characters tend to die. Now this kind of carries over into something that when I first started in the first good decade, I've played with the same group since 1985, 84, somewhere around in there. We have played almost continually, other than when I was in the Army for 30 odd years. And these old veterans that began, Todd and Mac, really the only ones left from the early days, they will tell me now that I have become such a softie because of the way I run a game. Because in those days, if you rolled it, you kept it. So if you rolled a 1 hit point, that's what you've got. At first level, you're a fighter with 1 hit point. That's just the way it is. The dice were unkind to you. The problem with that, and this is what I'm talking about in part 2 and trick 2, is that those characters die all the time, and then they have to make a new character, which is fine. I've already kind of set them up for that to begin with. But frequently, and especially in those days, played AD&D, even in CNC, you do it as well, Castles and Crusades. I'm not sure about 5th edition. I'm not sure what 5th edition does on death, but you could live to your -10. So that guy with 1 or 2 hit points was dying constantly to -3. I followed the rules where you had to rest 7 days, and then you can start healing. So now we've got to play out a week, 7 days while this character is healing before he even begins actually healing to the point that he can get back up. So time just kind of taught me that this is just not a good idea to start with 1 or 2 hit points. The wizard maybe, but it's just not enough to get through even a night's combat. So what I do now, frequently, if I'm at a con or it's young people or whatever, they just start with max hit points. Just first level, max hit points. After that, you're rolling it. Now, for my table, I don't do that. I let everybody roll, sometimes up 3 times, twice at least, and they get to just pick whichever one they want. Now, once the third, if they've rolled 3 ones in a row for their hit points, I just assume it's the god speaking, and that's it. You've got 1 hit point. But at least give them a little opportunity to have more hit points. The problem being is if they are constantly getting wounded and knocked out, it's going to be disruptive to your game, to the flow of the game. It's going to logjam everything as people try to do. This character has to rest 7 days or however it is that you roleplay that out, and everybody else has got to do something. So you've either got to fast forward time, which can mess up all kinds of stuff. It has have repercussions which sometimes happen, and that's great, but if you've got a character that's got 1 hit point, it's going to happen every single game. Every game that character gets hit, especially if it's one of the fighter classes or the cleric, every game that character gets hit, there you are. You're going to be stuck for a week's rest. So I recommend giving 2 to 3 rolls on their hit points at first level. More Game of Thrones than Conan. Yeah, I don't know that I'd go that far, Eraser, but Game of Thrones is a bit... it is a bit stout with the character deaths, even more so than The Walking Dead, I think. But definitely a little, somewhere maybe in the middle, something like that. Let's see, and Eraser says 5e is 3 death saves at 0 hit points, 50-50 chance. So if you make your save, what are your hit points back? So if I go to -1, the dice knocks me to -1, what do my hit points become? So, and I make my saving throw. What happens with my hit points? I'm asking Eraser, so because I haven't played 5e yet.
Yeah.
Jason does quite a bit. Actually, everyone in our gaming group has a Friday night game. I game Thursday nights. We gather tonight, in fact. But they have a Friday night game where they're playing 5e. The only ones who haven't joined it are me and Todd.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I am a Castles and Crusades purist. That is my game. I love the game. So.
Kathy won't let you out too much.
That's way too much. Way too much. I don't know if it's Kathy or me, but...
You feel like me with Mary. I use her as an excuse all the time when I just don't want to do anything.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, Mary, we need to stay overnight.
Yep, that's one of the things you get married for.
Yep.
People don't tell you that, and there's lots of benefits that come with marriage that you just don't understand until you're married. And it's the agreement between both of you, because she does the same thing. Oh, Steve's got us doing it, so we can't do that. It's just the way to do it. Not that I would ever have done that to anybody, but
Certainly not.
Of course not. Let's see. No, going below 0, save to stabilize at 0. If I you start with a minimum of 6 hit points unless you have a con below 10. So when I'm at 0, so I save, I'm at 0. Can I be healed up at that point? Can a cleric come over and heal me and give me 5 hit points? I'm assuming so. Most games do.
Heal, free saves, character dies. Other spells allow characters to stabilize at 0, but not heal.
Oh, okay. You go to 0. If you get a cure spell, you how many hit points back and you're back up again. If you make 3 saves, you stabilize 0 points and regain consciousness in 1 to 4 hours. Interesting. Yeah, so it basically what 5e has done is kind of circumvented the low hit point thing. It's allowed you to get over it and back into the game relatively quickly. For me, and that's great. I think that's no finger wagging at 5th edition or whatever, but an easier fix for me is just give them a few more hit points to begin with. It's really the same thing. It gives them a little bit more chance to survive every combat, because low hit points, no matter whether you've got 3 saves or not, low hit points becomes very frustrating. I know this. I it might have been William. I can't remember. This one of my favorite gnomes. Davis talks about this guy all the time. He was this very large gnome who spit tobacco and used a crowbill, and he was a fighter. And I spit tobacco so much that I had yellow stains in my cheeks and on my chest and all that stuff. But he started at 3 hit points, and that dude died so often. He went negative so often. I think he managed to get to 3rd level before we quit that game, but it got frustrating. And I know I've run enough games where I see people who have low hit points and they die a lot. It gets frustrating. That interestingly, that guy William was based off of a postman years and years and years and years ago when I was down in Monticello, Arkansas, visiting my grandmother. We were sitting out in the yard in front of her trailer talking to Aunt Lottie, and these 2 old women were just absolutely freaking hysterical. They just sat there talking about anybody who drove by. Well, this guy drove by in this pickup truck, this greenish colored pickup truck, old, probably 60s truck. And you could see from the roughly where his arm would hang out the window on the paint on the door and the gunwale all the way to the back of that truck to the bumper was gone, and it was stained this yellowish brown, and it just looked, like when you pour soda out and the liquid flows, it just looked like it was just horrific. And I turned to Granny and asked her what's up with the post, because he stopped and delivered the mail. What's up with the postman's truck? And she says, well, just watch him. He's spitting tobacco. And that he had been spitting tobacco in that truck for 20-something years, spitting it out the window, and it had just corroded the side of the truck. It was awesome. So I thought, I'm going to make a character out of that guy. That guy's awesome.
Really?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Brevin says, well, yeah, 5e has upped average damage dealt by both characters and monsters, so it's that going below and healing up slows the game. Yeah. So it's the same kind of thing. So it really gets aggravating. So I'd recommend allowing people to roll 2 or 3 times when they're developing a character. If they roll low 3 times, these are the fates. So that kind of gets us in. So once you've eased everybody into the game, and people have characters and they're set up and they're starting to roll. You're very clever, Tim. Starting to roll. It's a good time to kind of start the game itself. The idea is you've already kind of laid the groundwork for what's coming, whether it's an overland adventure, whether it's a dungeon adventure, or whatever, just in the commentary and easing into it. And now what I try to do is open it with a really good description. And you absolutely cannot make it a long description, and you really do not want to do. Actually, I skipped to 4. Number 3 is expository text. That's right. So one of the things that I do not do when I open up, and I don't really like to do negative tricks. I don't like to say what not to do. I like to rather say what to do. But I'm going to break that mold here. I try not to open with lots of expository text. Too often, people have to sit through a 20 or a 30-minute lecture about the world, the setting, all of these things that are going on that the GM has done to create the game that you're fixing to play. You certainly spent, 10 days, whatever, reading or writing or creating all this stuff, and it's all just exploding on your head, and you want to show everybody, you want everybody to get the feel of it and all of that, and that's great, but you don't want to do that in the opening. I don't recommend that you do that in your opening commentary, because you can immediately, whatever setup you have already done, you can immediately kind of disengage people. If it goes on for too long and someone's not super interested in it, and it's difficult to get interested in someone else's expository text, if someone's not interested in it, they're going to start disengaging and looking around the room, cracking a few jokes, checking their phone, and then you kind of started losing them. I'm guilty of this. The Codex of Air, as some of you probably know, is this gigantic 300-page. I could go on about the settings that I run games in for quite a while, especially the Dark and Fold, because I've written it all. I've played in it for 30 years, 20 years, whatever, and so it's all on my head, especially once I start playing, and especially once I'm engaged, and when someone asks a question. But I try to keep that text low. That stuff, your background material, your gods and your mythology and the setting and the way people behave and the trade routes and whatever it is that you've done and developed or that you're using from another published setting, should come out in gameplay. And it will come out in gameplay. The more you engage your characters, which we'll get into later, the more you engage your characters, the more they're going to kind of want to know. And you're going to be able to feed this stuff out a little bit at a time. There's Davis used to tell me, I can't remember, there's a storytelling. Tim, what is that? When you start in the middle of a story, it's a technique.
Well, you mean like foreshadowing?
Davis used to, there's a Greek plays would always start in the middle of the story, and then they would go back, and in whatever capacity. And that's sort of what you want to do. You want to get people playing first and bleed the setting into them and bleed all the background into them. Give them just a little bit to get started, and that kind of leads us into trick 4. The little bit is going to be in your, what did he say? Deus Machina? Deus
Machina.
Machina. Is that what that is? That's that principle where you start kind of in the middle?
Well, no, Deus Ex Machina is when God just comes down and solves the play at the end.
Yeah, I've been there and done that too.
Yeah, in media res, that's what it is right there.
What is it? I missed
that
it.
last one, in media res.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I like Eraser's comment here. Oh, nice. You brought a 7-page backstory for your character while I'm reading it. Here's my 286-page backstory for my world. Yeah, a lot of that stuff can get, if you're interested in that, that's great. But a lot of times it's best to bleed it into the game as you go on. And that's interesting for players too, that they should bleed that background in. They shouldn't just lay it all on the other players and everything. Just let it kind of, let all of that expository text come out in play, and as it should. So that leads us into 4, which I think I've already got the placard up. But I do want to point out that we are not endorsing Google. I do not care for Google very much. I haven't used it in decades. I don't use it. I use Bing. I think Bing might actually be powered by Google, but don't let me know that. If that's true, just keep it to yourself. I don't need to know any of that. But so that brings us into number 4, which is what I kind of started in a few minutes ago. Once you've done a little bit of background, this is what we're doing, this is the world, this is what's going to happen. Start with a really good opening description. Should I give an example for number 3?
Do you have one?
Well, it's the one I use for the Darkened Fold every time. So for number 3, the World of Erd is a very complex set of plots and themes and mythologies and history and all this other stuff. So you could lecture on about the World of Erd for quite some time. But when I start games, like at cons, I do the Darkened Fold, and I'll say things very, very briefly, like you're in the Darkened Fold, which is an ancient wood that lies in the southwest lands of Ursul. This wood survived the 1,000-year reign of the Millennial Dark because it itself is rather sentient and was able to resist the conquest of Unklar, the Horned God. Its sentience or its resistance allowed it to survive on its own in the world, which attracted all kinds of people fleeing the Winter Dark, brigands and monsters, good and evil and all that stuff. So the Darkened Fold itself is absolutely filled with all kinds of adventure. And that's it. And that's kind of it. We're a minute and a half into the description of the setting that they're going to go into, and then we can begin. And I begin with trick number 4, which is an opening description. I try to give, wherever it is, whether it's a dungeon or a town or overland, mountains, swamps, whatever, I try to give a short but very succinct description. And this is where I use, and I talk about this a lot in the tricks, I think. I try to use keywords. What was the one I did up at Gary Con? I talked about maple trees. I think I said, describe the trees. You don't have to describe the trees per se, but use keywords like, these are maple trees. And then I went on to say that nobody knows what a maple tree looks like, but that doesn't matter. But we're in a room filled of people from Wisconsin and Canada, so everybody knew what a maple tree looked like. But yeah, so use keywords, sorghum grass, whatever it is that is in your setting that just kind rivets someone's attention to what you're saying, because even if they don't know what it means, I'm this way. If I don't know what a word means, it catches my attention, and I always kind of think, what? But your description, of course, will be context. Have enough context that they're going to know what they're going to envision something in their own mind, whether it's actually what a hickory tree looks like or a white juniper tree or whatever. Doesn't matter. What does matter is that they've got an image in their mind that they can go with. We all kind of, see things differently that we read and that we hear, so that's no big deal. But open with some kind of short, sharp description and pull some keywords out. One of the things that I do since the advent of the internet, of course, we used to use thesaurus all the time, but the internet really gives you a mountain of descriptive text and words to use. I think the example I use in these tricks, I don't know what I was writing. I guess it was this 9th story in the Uric saga with Uric and Ava. There's some flowers in it. Yeah, the flowers that grow at the foot of the Gotland trees. And I really don't know the anatomy of a flower. I like flowers. They're pretty. They're kind of cool looking. But I don't know anything about a flower. So I just went in and I typed in anatomy of a flower, and sure enough, went to images on Bing, went to images, and sure enough, there was a half a dozen images that have just the breakdown. And you can do that on almost anything, the anatomy of a horse, the anatomy of all kinds of stuff, and it just comes up with all kinds of nice words that you can throw out that people will latch on to while you're doing your description.
And what was that word? Was it peduncle, right?
Peduncle, yeah. It's the part of the flower, the stem, I guess. Wasn't that it? I think that was it.
Yeah, because I had to look that up after I started editing, and I'm like, all right, that does not sound like a word that you would just throw out there.
Right.
I'll just go see it. And sure enough.
And that's where that comes from. And it's one of those things that, when you're describing stuff, whether you're writing or running a game, it's not common knowledge for you know what a petal is, right? But it's not common knowledge to know. And then there's different types of flowers. There's flowers that I was specifically describing, the Dipherium flowers. Oh, now I can't remember what breed of flowers it looks like, but it's on the peduncle, and it's got dozens of little flowers hanging off of it, tiny ones. I can't remember the terminology, but yeah, all of that stuff, you don't know what it is, right? So the internet, you just go to your search engine and you just type in whatever it is, and it'll help you with your opening description. Shouldn't take more than a minute or two. I will caution you, however, to make certain that your, the safe mode or the moderate mode is set on your search engine. Sweet Lord! I can't remember why I turned mine off, but I turned it off last weekend. Well, I think I was writing that, and yesterday I did a search on, I can't remember the word I typed, bears. My wife loves bears, and I was going to send her a picture of a sleeping bear because she said she was tired. Holy crap. Woo! It was a lot of imagery that I did not send my wife. So, rather humorous. All right, so with your opening description, you've set the game up. You've set everything to go. Everybody's now getting into it. And now what I like to do, and this is part of what I talk about a lot, I engage the players. So you've already spent time. You've set the game up. Everybody's been talking and joking. Everybody's rolled their characters or gotten their characters going, and you've set the hit points how you want them, and you've avoided expository text, did a little bit of background, for a minute or two, and then you've opened with your short description, another 3 or 4 minutes where you've done that. So you've only dominated the table you've been here for 30 minutes, you've only dominated the table for maybe 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, and that's really, really good. So what I try to do immediately is turn it back over to the players, and I call for descriptions. I always start on my right. I don't know why I have forever, but I just ask each player to describe what their character looks like. Start over here. I would advise, if you know your table or you know someone at your table is a little bit more enthusiastic about these types of things, start with that person. That'll give the other people who aren't necessarily that enthusiastic about describing their characters time to kind of get their heads around something that they can say. That just gives, because a lot of people don't want to do this. They don't want to describe. They just want to play a game, and that is perfectly fine. Because once I ask them to start playing, we've got some of the guys at the table will spend 7 or 8 minutes describing everything about their characters. Someone's just, I got my cloak and my sword. and that's perfectly fine. Some people don't want to do it, and they shouldn't have to do it. It's a game that we're all playing. But what that does is it allows everybody, it allows you to see the characters and get a better idea of what you're running, what you're GMing here, whether fighters and all of that mess. You can see swords if somebody's got a double-bladed battle axe or a two-handed sword or a bow, and the incoming encounters or whatever they're doing, you can kind of make mental notes of what they've got. It also allows the other players to kind of start visualizing who they're traveling with, which just helps the whole kind of visual aspect of the game. And then it allows each and individual player to interact in the game within the first few minutes of the game actually launching, which to me is super important because nobody wants to come to a table and listen to someone drone on for 45 minutes.
Right.
So yeah, that's the last one is descriptions. Again, I guess the other part of the descriptions engage while they're describing their characters. Kind of engage with the characters just a little bit. So if they say they're using a walking staff, you can say something like, probably made of hickory because hickory is common in this area. I got hickory on my mind a lot because part of my hickory tree cracked, so I got a hickory problem in the backyard. So you engage a little bit with their characters, and what this does is this begins to allow you to control the tone of the game, and that's next week's GM's Tricks of the Trade, but setting the right tone helps all kinds of things. I mean, all kinds of things. It stops kind of outrageous play that some guys may be in a super good mood, just want to do some crazy stuff. It'll ratchet that down somewhat because though that person may be in a super good mood wanting to play, someone else may be in a super good mood and wanting to play serious. So you kind of want to set the tone gradually and ease into it by allowing them to describe their characters. And you interacting with them, it helps you kind of tone that back a little bit and set where you're going. Now, ancillary to all of that, in the opening stages, especially for beginning GMs, don't control what they look like. I had this problem as a new GM, and it caused innumerable issues. When they describe someone who is so outrageous to the setting of the game that you have kind of mapped out in your head, just kind of smile and nod. Say something like, that might be kind of unusual for this area, that type of stuff. You don't want to kind of burn it down immediately, because if you burn it down immediately and tell them they can't play that, or that's not realistic, or that doesn't fit, then you're immediately going to lose that player. Or you're going to start build up some animosity between you and the player, and it's going to threaten to derail the game later. It's best to control that with tone. I found not all, but most people, sometimes you may have to come crashing down on someone, but most people will shift the way they describe or envision their character to fit the game that they're playing in, especially if everybody else at the table is kind of doing that. So in your opening rounds, don't come down hard on somebody's description. Let it go. And as game 2 or game 3 comes around, that's where you start to kind of change the tone, help them change the tone that this is maybe a better way to play. I had a guy out in LA, I ran a game for some people, and he was playing a crazy cat lady. That's the way he described his character. Well, there's really, in the world of Arid, it's kind of a heroic world, so crazy cat ladies don't really fit. I mean, I'm certain there's gazillions of people in Arid, so I'm sure there's an old woman who's crazy who has cats. I'm sure there's somewhere. Whether she's going to be the hero of the day is unlikely. So it didn't fit, but I didn't say anything. I just kind of went with it, made some jokes about, I vaguely remembered The Simpsons had some lady was swinging a cat constantly. Man, it's been a long time since I've watched that crew. I love The Simpsons. But yeah, that came to mind. We made some jokes and whatever. But by the end of the game, we played for about 4 hours. By the end of the game, he had toned that down to this kind of grumpy lady, which was really kind of cool. It changed it. He went from being goofy to just someone who doesn't like all of this. And that fits much better. So use tone to kind of control outrageous stuff. Don't use hard rulings to control outrageous stuff. That's kind of what the upshot of the last part of trick number 5 is.
Well, and that also sort of reminds me of when you say, can we do something? Can we try this? Can we do that? And I'll just say, maybe.
Yeah.
The tone that it's like, there's no way we can do that. But there's no way that I know how to do any of that crap.
But that's perfect though. no, that is perfect because it really does. I'm throwing an idea out, and I really, in the past 2 years, I've turned that entire side of the business over to you. I mean, I think I got in. You couldn't get onto OBS to upload something a couple weeks ago, and it took me forever to remember how to do anything on OBS. Because you do all of that, and the newsletters, all of that stuff. So I don't even. It's probably a coupon mostly. Can we do blah 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 with the coupons? And you're like, But it gives me time to kind of wind down off of whatever, whatever outrageous thing I'm wanting to do.
Right.
Which is.
Well, hey, we just got a sale of 2 screens just a second ago. I came up, so I wanted to let people know that we have only 3 screens now in stock.
Holy Christmas!
Yeah,
I got to talk to Joe because I can't. That we've talked about it on the channel here quite a few times. That the paper, I just can't get it. The paper that goes around the screens, it's just not going to be available. I'll keep looking, but. Because I love those screens, but in the interim, we're down to 3. I'm going to get with Goodman and Joe Goodman over Goodman Games. I know he prints some screens and find out where he does his. But see, I think he does.
People know we're only going to have 3 for a while. So if you want them, go get them.
Yep.
Alright. See, anything else?
Enjoy free Dr. Pepper. Not really. Let's see. Did someone say something about? I think I missed it about the crazy. A lady cat who was crazy or. No, it was a lady who he called her the crazy cat lady. I think he had a cat. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure he did. But and it was cool. He was playing what he wanted to play, and it was one of those games you're only going to play once, But even so, it kind of highlights the a way to kind of to ratchet that back down. So next week I'm going to get into tone more, and I think I am going to take a step back and do the one after that I'll do on actually preparing for the game, because I forget that I frequently don't prepare much for games, but that's just because I've run games for so long I can kind of pull things out that I've done before and do it again. So I'll do one on actual getting what I recommend you do to get prepared for a game. I'll throw in there I normally, before those big games, I think you know this, Tim, before those big games at the conventions that I do when I'm running 20 or 24 people, I always take a bath. I go back to the room and take a shower, take a nice long hot shower before the game. I don't know why, just do it. Now it's just habit. So, but that won't be in the tricks of the trade. I'll give personal hygienist, everybody's own thing, but I'll be more concrete.
All right. So one last thing before we go, and you won't do it because you're a humble soul, but I'm going to plug the Mirrored Soul. I'm not sure we've done a Twitch since that came out, have we?
I don't think so. And actually, I'd like us to. We need to talk to Chuck. I kind of want us. We've got so much product out, and so much product coming out that I'd kind of like to do some some shows on. I gotta get the vocabulary down. So I'd kind of like to do some shows on just our product, not just stuff I've written, but we've got just an absolute 200 something titles out there, and some of it just gets forgotten. And so I'd like to start kind of bringing that back.
We need to. We did one right for backpack and stuff, but it'll be nice to be able to maybe do a general one on some stuff, but then maybe do one specific to other things. But I would highly encourage people to go pick up the Mirrored Soul. I think we've got it cheap in PDF, right? Like 99 cents.
It's 99 cents. Yeah, it's basically I got my desk copies here. So this is A House as God came out well over a year ago. It's 4 short stories about Ulrich Gunshoff and how he meets the Ranger Ava. And then this was released a few months ago. It's The Mirrored Soul. It's 4 more short stories about those 2. I've already finished this 9th. So that's 8. I finished the 9th one. I think I sent that to you.
Yep.
And the 10th one will actually be something of a novella. It's going to be The Pools of Dunhollow, and it's going to be very long. So the next one will probably only have 2 tales in it, but one's going to be very long. novel length, but longer.
I'm anxiously awaiting the figure out what happens to a certain character. So,
yeah, that dwarf.
It's good stuff, and I encourage people just to get it and try it out. I did have a point to make about that as well, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, they're in PDF. They're 99 cents. You can get them on the Kindle. You can get them for your tablet, whatever. And I'd love to hear your feedback. This is something I've been writing and designing for games for a very long time, close to 20 years now, and there's lots of fiction kind of laced in the world of Aird, but it's more historical fiction, sort of written in the tone of epic tales type stuff. So this kind of following Ulrich Gunshoff and his comrade Ava is a little bit new for me, so I'd love to hear your feedback. Anybody's got anything?
Yeah, send it out on all the social media stuff that we have that Chuck has been putting through there. See, if you're new to us or you're just kind of coming in, we've got Discord, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I don't know.
It's Twitter, a couple of Twitter accounts, a couple of Facebook accounts. It's all that stuff. We're everywhere.
Whatever. We can't get rid of us.
You can't get rid of us.
No. All right. Well, unless you've got anything else, I think we're about ready to wrap her up.
No, I tend to agree with Eraser there that showers are good at cons, but beyond that, I take about 2 a day at cons because they're hot. But beyond that, I got nothing. I hope everybody's enjoying these tricks of the trade. And we've had a couple of emails asking for archival copies, and I know Tim's working on that. So
yeah, we need to come up with some good way of doing that. Maybe that's something we talk to people about. Do we do it online? Do we put it into a book? Do we do both?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We may try maybe a living PDF where we just update the PDF. I have no idea. We gotta, because part of it we need to get them organized. Because in the early tricks they were just all over the place, right? And now I'm trying to get a little bit more focused. But we'll get those archives up somewhere very, very soon so everybody can tap into them. We've got them all saved, so
yeah,
we're good. All right, but that's about it for me, Tim. That's it.
All right, I got it. Thank you, sir. Take care.
Thanks everybody for showing up.